So Dan Baltz of the Washington Post had a story which I thought got very little play. If you're interested in understanding the Harris High Command's perspective on why they lost, get either subscribe to the Washington Post or get behind the paywall. Dan interviewed uh, Jen O'Malley Dillon and unnamed others. Most of it was on background. Jen went on the record for a few things, but they run through a bunch of stuff. One thing they say is they didn't think they could win the Sun Belt states, which of course they didn't tell the truth about during the campaign. They said exactly what we said here repeatedly, which is they had to only win the blue wall states and Omaha in exactly 270. But if you read the story, there's no blame put on the nominee. They basically say we did great. There's nothing we could have done because we only had 100 days and the wrong track was so high. The trans ad didn't do any damage. It's just people didn't think the economy was good. I find it to not be a particularly forthcoming analysis, primarily for two things. And I'm going to play a soundbite and then go to you guys. One is they don't blame her, and I continue to think the mistake was that she ran. Not that anybody else necessarily would have done better, but she was so tied to all the things. They say we had 100 days to separate from Joe Biden and to deal with our record. No one else would have had to do that. Any other nominee wouldn't have had to separate the way she would. And number two, they don't deal with the fact that the party's too far left to win an election. Here is last night from Two Way Tonight from Dan and my series, Defuture, Congressman Richie Torres saying his primary analysis of what went wrong.
The Democratic Party is a ideologically varied, unwieldy coalition ranging from the Squad to the Blue Dogs. And so there's no universally agreed upon diagnosis of what went wrong, and therefore there's no agreed upon prescription of how to move forward. But I hope that there's a pendulum swing back to the center. I think we as a party have to recognize the majority of the American people are in the center. When the Republicans swung the pendulum too far to the right on abortion, the Republicans paid a price. In the 2022 congressional midterms, their red wave was reduced to nothing more than a trickle.
So again, one other tidbit from our discussion with Congressman Torres, I asked him who he wanted for DNC chair. He said, I don't have a candidate. And then he said, Rahm would be pretty good. I should have followed up and asked him if Rahm was called him. That was a mistake. Dan, what do you think of the Ball's interview with the Harris High Command?
There's two things that I am sympathetic to, and there's three macro things I'm not. I am sympathetic that it was a short time frame. I mean, everyone would agree you would never want to run for president in such a short, compressed period. Coming after Joe Biden.
I got to interrupt you that one just to say it was. But when she said she was going to run and she boxed everybody out, I think she knew when the election was.
Well, and look, I totally think it was a winnable race. I'm just saying.
Right. Okay. Fine. Sorry. I won't interrupt anymore. Go ahead. Short time.
No, that's okay. And then two, I do agree with them that Trump was innovative in reaching new voters by with influencers and podcasters. So those two things, I give them credit for.
I don't give them any credit for that because she could have done it too.
That was not. Hold on. I said I'm trying to have two things that I agree with Dan Balls in the assessment. The three things that I totally disagree on is if the economic and immigration headwinds were so strong, why didn't you attack them like Bill Clinton focused like a laser beam? Like the fact that the story says that they thought going to the border once in late September was going to move the immigration numbers is comical. I mean, for an entire year, we heard Joe Biden's administration threaten an executive order, but to always back off because either the lawyers didn't approve it or the advocates went, ballistic that you can't do this. The second thing is everyone knew the economy was what was an issue, and you offer three of the most small ball, vanilla, like poll tested, simplistic things. They argue that voters wanted change and there was nothing that she could do about it. She led on that issue for a period as the candidate of change. And then she played, prevent defense and lost that, slim advantage that she had earned, at one point. And as you say, like we've asked this before, why they didn't do a more aggressive action on immigration, on the economy, and this idea that there was a hangover from COVID, like, the party knew this, and yet it didn't want to do anything. And to me, what's not in this story, and whether it's her or anyone else, is the party is largely intellectually exhausted. I mean, Obama ran in 2012 on kind of a tactical, grind it out, like I'm going to protect the ACA from being overturned. Biden ran because he thought Trump was like a threat to democracy in Charlottesville. I still don't know why he and then she really want to be president. Like, what did they want to do for you? It was just like, he sucked. So to me, as you say, that story, I laughed at it. If that's what they're going to try to hang their hat on, like we had no chance and there was just a tsunami that overwhelmed us, I don't believe it. I totally think this was a winnable race, and they didn't do it.
Yeah. Dan, as Pink would say, you're effing perfect. Sean.
So I think that the story was fascinating on two fronts, and I think you've encapsulated both of them. But I think it was one, they didn't, and I get why you can't. I mean, like, just to be fair to Jen O'Malley Dillon and the others, you just ran this campaign. You're not trying to be disloyal and crap on your candidate. So in fairness to them, having been there before, you got to be a little careful about, like, hey, she sucks. Like, you can't do that as an operative. It's not loyal.
But sorry to interrupt. Why do the interview then?
Oh, no, because you know that Dan's going to write it and get other people to crap on you. So you're just figuring out where you want the crap to flow from. You're basically saying, does I want other people to crap on me, or do I want to get him to it so we can do it? Now, and this goes to my second point. I think that Dan, I mean, if you read the story, he helps them. I mean, he's like, however, he is in the camp of, I'm going to help you make excuses. What I thought was funny is there's a million things in there about what she could have done. The reality is she also got a leg up. She didn't go through a primary. She didn't have to defend her positions from 2019. She didn't have to cater to the left to outflank other candidates, right? So she got a lot of advantages as well. She raised over $1 billion. So look, their spending was atrocious. They had to pay influencers to support them. The spending that has come out now and how much they're in debt, I get it, but they're pretending like somehow they were running this on a shoestring with 5 days. They had a bad candidate that failed to address key issues. They made horrible media decisions. The response to basic questions was pathetic. I mean, it was so devoid of reality.
Well,
and I think
yeah, and it also misses the point that all of her problems were Biden. Biden had the same mechanical problems. For a year and a half. I mean, there's a reason Barack Obama went to see him in April of 23 to say, you need to get your head out of your ass and get moving because they have a primary, you don't, and you need to start building the infrastructure and take advantage of the fact that you don't have a primary. He went back to him in January of 2024 with an even more forceful, what are you doing? So, like, Jen O'Malley Dillon was there in 23. The party was like, why aren't you guys taking advantage of the fact that he is like trying to outflank Ron DeSantis? He's bragging, you're letting him off the mat to rebuild his image, to be seen as moderate while he's trying to protect his right flank. And it wasn't until the State of the Union in March that they were like, okay, we're going to start the campaign now, everybody. But Trump took the lead in November of 23 and never gave it up.